What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I want to bring back a different type of video. I've been just sticking to gameplay videos the past while now, and I want to do more of these type of videos. And as you all know, the month of August just ended. It is September 1st as I'm recording this. Might get this out tomorrow or today, but either or, it's September now. And in a couple days, or I shouldn't say a couple days, about a week, on September 8th, we will get the August Player of the Month set in MLB The Show. And here I am today to discuss with you guys the potential options. Because I feel like I always like discussing the options and showing the stats and whatnot. And I think it's fun, and it drives some good discussion too. So before we get into this, let me know down below, I guess, before I get into this, like I said, who you think is going to be the Lightning. All right, so we got I'm probably gonna go with the honorable mentions first. We'll go over some stats. I got Fangraphs up here. We also have some Savant pages right here for later. This is gonna go into more analytical stats to kind of just show you what who are the leaders in the month of August. As you see here, sorting by WRC plus, because WRC plus is a great showing of how good offensively a player was that month. 100 is average, and as you can see, hopefully on the screen, we got 3 players with a over 200 WRC plus in the month of August. We had a lot of really good hitters, and the top 30 rounds out at 143 with Michael Conforto, who actually has been struggling. So nice to see him up here. But let's get into some of the honorable mentions. Pitcher, I wanted to mention, we got Blake Snell. Blake Snell is actually up here. He could maybe even get a card, because like I said, these are just predictions and just guys I should throw out there. I think honestly, any of these guys I mentioned in this video could get a card. I wouldn't be surprised. Blake Snell, I mean, he was incredible this month. He's been struggling all year. Sorry, I had to go do something, so I kind of lost my train of thought. But Blake Snell, he was struggling. He's been struggling all year, and he had a pretty good month. He 36 2/3 innings pitched. He had a 1.72 ERA. Even his advanced numbers are pretty good. 2.61 FIP, 13.25 K per 9, and his walks per 9 is still a little high, but he's been better. And I don't know what it's been better for him, but I'm happy. I like the guy. Another guy I would want to mention, Marco Gonzalez. I'm not gonna go too in depth on every single stat because this video would be 4 million years long. But Marco, arguably, debatably up there for player of the month, or sorry, pitcher of the month, with a couple guys. Obviously, I think that's gonna be Robbie Ray, but he had a great month. I just don't think he'd be a too good statistical card in the game, because he doesn't strike out a ton of people, or didn't in most of his starts. He had a 6K per 9, which is well below average in the MLB. But other than that, his walks per 9 was obviously pretty good. His homer per 9 was all right. And everything else about it was good. He had a great month. He had a 1.58 ERA, obviously for a reason. And we saw some vintage Marco last month. Some hitter honorable mentions I want to mention, and these guys could easily be guys who actually get cards. But it's just hard to pick a set of 9 players. 4 hitters, 4 pitchers, and a Lightning guy, or for being a pitcher or a hitter. It's just tough, because a lot of people had good months. Odubel Herrera, I mean, he's up here at 7th, so he could easily get a card. 175 WRC plus, very good isolated numbers if you want to look into the splits. Just pretty good K percentage. He didn't strike out a lot. He also didn't walk a lot, but 341 average, 409 on base percentage, and a 634 slugging. I mean, it's pretty good. Frank Schwindl is also another guy. He's up here at 9th in WRC plus in the month of August. 172. Insane. I hadn't heard this guy before this month, and he's all over the charts this month in terms of hitting and everything else. So he might get looked at, because he's just a guy who might not have a card like this, or an opportunity to get a card like this again. Yordon Alvarez, I looked into the numbers. Obviously, dude's killing it this month. His on-base percentage is kind of low. I mean, for what we typically know for a Yordon, I mean, 339 is nothing terrible, but it's kind of low for a Yordon type month. But I thought interesting. I looked at these more in depth on the splits for the honorable guys on my stream yesterday. If you haven't, by the way, follow me on Twitch, link in the description. Yordon's been destroying lefties. He's gotten over 800 slugging, well over 800 slugging against lefties this month, and is around 500, which is still solid against righties, but he's just destroying lefties. Another one, Ty France, my guy. One of the most underrated first basemen in baseball overall. Had a double 163 WRC plus this month. Just was really good for the Mariners. Just in general, he's a good on base guy. He slugged a lot he didn't slug as much as these other guys this month. He slugged pretty decently though. But I think he's probably going to be our finest card, so I didn't really include him in the bunch, but I could see him getting a card. Anthony Santander, I could easily see him in the bunch as well. But again, he's lower on this list. He's kind of around Evansville Garcia, who I actually talk about later, but I would love a Santander card. Switch hitting beast. You know, his stance has been incredible. Another one who Ryan Mountcastle is like top 2 in the AL and OPS. I don't know why he's not showing up here in terms of stats from August 1st to August 31st. Like, he literally doesn't show up at all in the top 30. I know he'd be here because I looked at his stats on stream after an Orioles friend of mine, Zach Attack, told me about him, because I wasn't talking about him because he wasn't on here when I was looking over the player of the month stuff. But he had a very good month. I don't know if they make him a card though, because just for the simple fact that his Tops Now card is probably close to what he'd get anyways, maybe a little more contact versus righties, because he's not a good defender, and he kind of had a similar month hitting wise to what his Tops Now card already kind of is. So I think they just gave another card to someone else who deserves it too, but I can see him getting a card too. It's kind of iffy. And the last one, a lot of people have been talking about Starling Marte. Starling Marte has been incredible for the Oakland A's in terms of WRC plus and power and whatnot. He's not up there. I'm not including him in this bunch because he wouldn't be as good probably as an MLB The Show card in terms of power that we all would want to see. But he would be a good fielder. He would have a high contact. He had hit 363 this month. He was incredible for the A's. He would probably have 90 plus speed. He already has 20 plus stolen bases for the Oakland A's as well. He's got 40 stolen bases, I think, on the year, 20 with the Miami Marlins and like 20 with the A's. So very good year for him and month as well. But he kind of just barely missed my list just because of the lack of power. But he could easily get a card. All right, time to get into a more in-depth research and stats. Just talk about the stats a little more of the guys I'm choosing. So the first hitter I'm going to choose for the player of the month is right by Santander. I'm going to pick Avisail Garcia. He's been huge for the Brewers all year. He's been incredible, even more incredible this month. He's one away from being a diamond, even in the MLB The Show, which is kind of nuts. He's got hit 286 in the month of August with a 409 on base percentage and a 600 slugging, giving him a 161 WRC plus and an isolated power of 314. Take a look at his splits. If we take a look at his splits versus righties, check him out. He hit 326 with a 652 slugging and a 421 on base percentage and a 326 isolated power against righties, which is very good. Against lefties, he actually didn't hit as well. He hit 208 with a 500 slugging and a 292 isolated power. 292, which isn't bad at all either. So he might actually have pretty solid power against both sides, but it seems like he's a little bit more inverse split when it comes to the average. So that's my first low hitter. All right, the next hitter I'm going to include on the list is going to be Hunter Renfro, and this is going to be an MLB The Show god if he ends up getting it. I imagine he will. He had a killer month. He had, in 22 games, he had 10 homers and 21 RBIs, 277 average, a 326 on base percentage, and a 711 slugging, which gave him a 170 WRC plus, good enough for 10th best in the MLB in that span, and an isolated power of 434, which is unbelievable. If you want to look at the in-depth his splits against righties last month, he had a 240 average, a 640 slugging, an isolated power of 400. So he'd probably have a low contact, I would guess maybe in the 270s range because it's a player month card. Or sorry, not 270, 70s range, or maybe low 80s if they were generous. And just killer power against righties. And then I would imagine it's the same thing's going to go against lefties, but he's going to have a higher average. probably above 100 contact or around 90 contact with a power probably maxed out or close to 120. So he's going to have, if he gets made, over 100 power easily at both sides, and pretty, favorable splits and usable splits. Well, I wouldn't say totally usable if against righties, just because they tend to make the lower play of the month cards more realistic. So it might be not totally usable against righties, but he is definitely, if you get into one, he's definitely gonna crush the ball. And I know a lot of people love Hunter Renfro in the game, and I would love to see him. Next hitter we're gonna talk about is Will Smith from the LA Dodgers, not the bad reliever, obviously. He had 8 homers and 17 RBIs in the month of August in 22 games. He had 282 with a 409 on base percentage, 634 slugging, giving him a WRC plus for good enough for 8th in the MLB at 174. We take a look at his splits. Look at his splits against righties. He actually was a little worse than he usually is. His usual self against righties this month. Usually he doesn't really do too hot against lefties, but it's actually the opposite as we go into that in a second. But 245 against lefties, or sorry, righties, but it's still with a respectable, very respectable isolated power of 302 and a respectable slugging of 547. So still very good against righties. Average wise, probably wouldn't be that high, but this is the special part. Against lefties, he's not inverse split this month. 389 average and 889 slugging and an isolated power of 500. He would be cracked out of his mind against lefties, and with his decent swing, pretty good swing, he'd be even fine against righties. I would imagine he'd probably be similar to Renfro against righties, probably a little less power. Well, pretty similar power actually. They might be similar cards. He's got comparable numbers against righties with like Renfro, but Will Smith definitely would be a beast in the game. And the final guy we're going to talk about is Tyler Naquin. I think Tyler Naquin had just too good of a month to not get a card at all. So I feel like he's one of those guaranteed guys. He was literally second in the MLB in WRC plus with 211. If you don't know how insane that is, like I mentioned earlier, that's insane. In 25 games, he had 6 homers, 13 RBIs, a 386 average, a 457 on base percentage, and a 735 slugging, an isolated power of 349, and pretty solid but not amazing percentages of K and walk percentages. We take a look at his splits, though. The story gets a little sad when you talk about his splits, because in game he might not cut it for a lot of people. Unfortunately, we look at his splits against righties. He was incredible. Probably deserves to be maxed out against righties, I should say. 424 average, a 424 isolated power, 848 slugging, and a 479 base percentage. A lot of his stuff in this month came against righties, which is the story with a lot of people this pretty much get close to lightning cards this year. As you can see, against lefties, different story. Like I said, 235 average, a 294 slugging, and an isolated power of 59, which is not ideal, not good, to put it lightly. Unfortunately, if they were to make him the, a card, he would probably have 60 power, or something like that. If they were to make it realistic against lefties, if he's not the Lightning, which I imagine he's not going to be the Lightning, but just, yeah, it kind of sucks, because if you look at his month, I mean, overall, that doesn't matter in real life. He had a killer month. He's helped the Reds, I almost said Rays, the Reds win a lot of games, kept them in this playoff push, but in the game, just doesn't cut it. Now let's talk about some pitchers. I think arguably if they decided to go this route, they could even give this guy, who's number 1, Robbie Ray, a player of the month card, the Lightning card, but I don't think they will. Like, there's not too much to talk about other than their basic stats. Robbie Ray, he had 41 innings pitched. He actually had only 1 decision this month, which is unfortunate for him. Obviously, it doesn't matter in the long run, but 11.41 K per 9, a 1.76 walk per 9, a 1.76 ERA. Just incredible stuff. We take a look at what he's been throwing this year. This is kind of what I'll be doing to showcase what they could get as a pitch arsenal. This is what he's been throwing this year: a 4-seam fastball, a slider, a curveball, a changeup, and he's thrown a sinker, albeit only 5 times, but he's thrown a sinker. So if he is given a card, which I imagine he will be, probably the second highest card in the program. I hope they give him the sinker. I don't know. His other card I think has a knuckle curve. His last year's card too. But I hope they give it to him. I really do. Next pitcher we're going to talk about is arguably a guy I could see them just holding off. They want to do like a second half program type thing, or just make second half cards of guys this year, because Logan Webb has been incredible. I don't know where it came from, because Logan Webb the past 2 years has been horrible. He was horrendous. And because I know from experience last year watching my Seattle Mariners, I just knew when we faced Logan Webb it was a win. Like that, I don't know if that happened to be the case, but I think it seemed like it was. But this year he's been incredible for the Giants, especially down the stretch in the second half. In August he had 38 and third innings pitched, a 9.63 K per nine, a 1.64 walk per nine, and an ERA of 1.41, which is incredible. He's been leading the Giants staff down the way, with Kevin Gausman slowing down a little bit. His control hasn't really been there all there. He's definitely not been the first half Gausman that we saw. And the guys like Logan Webb and everyone else on their team just seems to be pushing him up in their incredible out of the blue year. Let's take a look at what he's thrown. He throws the most beautiful pitch mix I've ever seen, almost, for a pitcher in the show. He throws a sinker, a slider, a changeup, a four seam, and a cutter. So I mean, I feel like a lot of us should just be rooting for this to happen. All right, the next one, I mean, there's a lot of guys you can go for here. Wainwright just got a card, McKenzie got a card, and Quantrill got a card, so I didn't really pick them. I think Gutierrez could get some mentions, obviously, too, and some other guys. But it's kind of tough. I went with Sandy Alcantara for this last pick, and he had a pretty good month. He had a 10.89 K per nine, a 3.9, in 39 2/3 innings, 2 walk per nine, and a 3.18 ERA, but his expected FIP and his FIP were pretty much the same. His expected FIP was supposed to be lower, but he's been really good for the Marlins this month, and he's just part of that nasty future rotation that they have going on over there. And obviously, we all know what he throws. He throws a sinker, a changeup, slider, four seam, and a curveball, and he would just be a beautiful guy to have in the game. And the last one we're gonna go over with is a reliever, because they always seem to put one reliever in. Relievers are kind of tough for me to pick, because you look here in the month of August, a lot of them were really good. You had Devin Williams, who was really good, who might get one, Andrew Kittredge, Brad Boxberger, Garrett Whitlock, Wandy Peralta, Austin Warren, Loizaga, if they boosted his per nines, because his per nines are kind of below average. And Seawald, Tapera already got one, but besides the point, you get the point. Clase I'm picking just because he would probably be the most requested one. He's been unreal this year for the Indians, and he would be unreal. I mean, look at this cutter mix. It's kind of wild at times. But he throws a cutter, obviously we know, with outlier, slider, and four seam. There's really not much else to say about him. I should probably talk about his stats real quick, though. The month of August, he threw 12 and 2/3 innings pitched, 10.6 K per nine. His walks per nine was kind of low, 0.71. And he had a 0 ERA. He didn't give up a single run and saved 6 games in 13 appearances. So it would make a lot of sense for them to make a Class A card, in my opinion. All right, I know the video is getting kind of long. I think we're at the 20-minute mark. I appreciate y'all if you have been watching up to this point. But the guy that we're taking as the Lightning card, I'm literally going to type his name in on the screen right now while I'm searching for him right here to get his stats up. You know who it's going to be, or at least I think it would be if you've been following baseball. It's going to be CJ Crum. Now, calm down. Another first baseman. I know. Unfortunately, because you're going to be a little happier, I think, when we get to the stats. But before you think about it, you're like, well, first baseman. He was the best player in the month of August. I don't think it's a debate. He was the best player in the month of August in terms of his stats. If you look at his stats, he had, in 26 games, 11 homers, which I think, no, it was second in the MLB, 34 RBIs, which is the tied or most in the Rockies history in the month of August, I think. I saw a stat about that. 12% walk rate, 19.4 K per rate, a 441 isolated power, which I think was the most in the MLB, highest in the MLB, a 387 average, a 463 on base percentage, an 826 slugging, and a WOBA of 523. He was unbelievable. Not even to mention his 217 WRC plus, which, by the way, is a ballpark factored stat, which includes his cores numbers. It adjusts for his numbers and cores compared to the rest of the league. That's unbelievable that it's that high. He was just that good this month. He was incredible. If you look at his splits, he might be, if they make him properly, because it's the month of August, or it's going into September, they need to juice him. They need to make him accurate, because he would probably be if not the best right-handed first baseman in the game. With his swing and these potential attributes, I mean, look at these numbers. Against righties, 382 average, 824 slugging, a 441 isolated power. Would have close to maxed out numbers against righties, and it easily should be justifiable. You should have 120 plus, probably, contact and power against righties. Like, he's just, oh my god, the numbers are just so good when you look at them. Lefties, they're literally pretty much the same. A 400 average and 840 slugging and an isolated power of 440. Just, he should have 120 plus across the board if they were to make it accurate. And he's got one of the best right-handed swings in the game. Just, he would be beautiful. Honestly, he would be so good. Now, we still have yet to see, as I wrap this up, we still have yet to see the actual player of the month, announcements from the MLB. I'm sure they'll go out either later today, as I'm recording this, the day of, or tomorrow when I post this, or tonight when I post this, probably tomorrow. But I would be shocked if it's not CJ Cron, and whoever wins it in the AL is probably going to be Stanton. He's not getting it over Cron. I mean, Cron was just unbelievable this month. Let me know what you think about this. If you are potentially excited for a guy like Cron, even with his 120 plus potential attributes across the board and stuff like that, let me know what you think down below about the options and honorable mentions I mentioned, because don't take what I said about the hitters and pitchers included, fully, like, don't take it as is. Every honorable mention and then some that I missed too either could get cards too. So if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button down below, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.